Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza. This is It's a Paul World. We've got a great interview. We have the one and only Gene Epstein, and Gene is going to be talking with us today. Going to go back and forth. We've already had a lively discussion, so we don't want to contain that energy anymore.
No.
Gene, welcome. Glad that you're here.
I'm glad to be at It's a Paul World with the great and only John Paul Mendoza.
Excellent. Well, and we are both glad to be here. So there you go. The Mutual Admiration Society is it.
Because you sound like quite a guy, and I haven't met you before. And, I guess you'll have to interview me, but I'll be frustrated because I won't get to ask you my questions. But go ahead.
Well, you can ask me a question. I mean, see, that the beauty of I do it, when people ask me, actually, when they ask my media booker, how does John interview people? And she goes, different with each person, because it's like a jazz thing. I go where we go. So if you want to ask a question.
I guess I learned, though, in the pre-interview that It's a Paul World is called that after Rand Paul and not so much after John Paul Mendoza.
Correct.
So,
yeah,
okay.
Correct. No, and just so everybody knows, I mean, the reason why It's a Paul World got birthed was that I was not happy with the 2012 election.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed with that. I wanted to find somebody that we could support. My brother and I took money out of our pocket. We're both in business, different businesses. And we started It's a Paul World because we thought Rand Paul most exemplified, for mainstream at least, libertarian, little L libertarian who might be able to do something. So that's what we started doing. And 2016 did not turn out like we thought it would, or had hoped it would turn out.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's constant comparisons between Rand Paul and two different kind of politicians. First, if you compare him with his father, then often many of us can become quite critical. If you compare him with other senators, then he smells like a rose. So I guess that's my viewpoint. Yeah.
Well, see, and the interesting thing about it is that we, if you step into the political space, like we did, and you start working in that space, what you quickly discover is how insular it is. And I don't know if you know this or not, Gene, but then they talk about the good old boys club or whatever it is. But I can tell you, it's just such a tight group that to actually, so we actually, when we launched in 2013, Rand Paul was there and he was starting to raise money and all of that. And in fact, we went to the private breakfast. We talked about how we were putting this in place. I gave him one of my business cards. I said, we're going to try to help, get this thing moved along. Please give this to your media people. And crickets. And in fact, the ironic part is that I actually, because of a business meeting, I was on the same flight as him, going from Las Vegas back to Nashville, because that's where he had to fly to. And I walked up and I said, I don't want to disturb you because you're on a plane, and trying to be very respectful. And he was kind of standoffish or something. But once again, very little interaction. And if you think somebody is spending money on something, you'd go, well, at least check them out and see, maybe they can help out, right? But yeah. So we've been doing it alone. I mean, again, and then I saw, since you're interested in this, we'll go there.
Yeah, sure.
I've been doing a FreedomFest every year since 2013, except last year. And
last year when they didn't hold it, when it was got canceled. Oh, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Well, and there were some other issues. I mean, such as COVID. My wife has a heart condition, and her cardiologist was very blunt and said, this would be a bad thing for her to get. So,
and you don't go anywhere without your wife. You're one of those guys. Okay, that's fine.
Oh no. My wife hates to travel, but no, what I don't want to do is I don't want to bring back the disease. That's my thing.
Stupid of me not to think about that. Of course.
Yeah. I mean, because and we can all get into an argument of is it real or isn't it real, and what's the mortality and what is the mortality, and all I can tell you is, since I gambled professionally for 4 years, I always go with the odds. Okay. So if something has a higher mortality, I don't sit there defiantly sitting there going, come on, disease. I quit smoking, for heaven's sakes, Gene, because I realized that it had a potential downside.
Well, so I putting putting your wife in jeopardy even in the slightest is not exactly something a devoted husband like you ever wants to do. I fully understand. I'm sorry we even went there. You were a sweet guy altogether, and so you planned not to go anyway, and it got canceled. But this year, you will be there?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. We're going to be there at Freedom Fest, and
With your wife?
No, she doesn't travel with me.
Oh, doesn't travel at all.
She does. She's not a traveler. She's not,
okay.
because I do kamikaze kind of travel.
Where are you coming out from? Where are you coming from?
Well, I live in California, but my business partner's in Dallas, and my brother's in Colorado. So we're meeting up in Denver, and we're driving to South Dakota.
I see.
Yeah, we're doing.
I'm looking forward to seeing you there, to hanging out with you, because you sound like quite a fun guy. But in any case, have you ever missed a Freedom Fest? Oh, since 2013. No, yeah.
No. Well, and again, but you had asked a question about what about Rand in 2016.
Yeah.
So I saw Donald Trump speak in Freedom Fest, right? He had come down the escalator just a few weeks before. Then he showed up at Freedom Fest. And he had that room packed.
That great libertarian Donald Trump. Go, yes.
Well, understand, but here's what I watched.
Yeah.
I watched a guy do things because I had seen Marco Rubio speak. I had seen a variety of other people at other conferences speak. Rick Perry and others, right?
Yeah.
And Donald Trump came in and had a certain authenticity, very bombastic guy. But again, since my father grew up on the Lower East Side of New York, my father didn't speak English. He spoke New Yorker. So since he spoke New Yorker, I understood it. I didn't get put off by some of the ways that Donald Trump speaks, because I had been around people who speak like that.
Your father, Mendoza. I didn't think you were Jewish, but you mean was he a Gentile in the Lower East Side? Mendoza. What's the origins of that name?
It's a Polish Ukrainian name.
So you're not Jewish, though.
No. Well, no. I'm not Jewish, but I mean, so
you're Ukrainian. Okay.
So now, we're more Polish.
I thought we Jews owned the Lower East Side in those days, but I didn't mean to get into that. You and I have many.
Okay, but all right, we're plumbing the depths here. So
one thing leads to another. But anyway, getting back to Donald Trump. Well, authentic, he certainly is, for sure. I grant you that. But go ahead about Donald Trump.
But look what he did. He did what because I do speaking. I'm sure you probably have a sense that I'm a little shy. It takes me a little bit to warm up. But anyway. So I'm sitting there.
Slightly shy. You're slightly shy, John, but not a whole lot shy. But go ahead. Yes.
I'm holding back. So anyway, I see him do things on the stage that every speaking coach I ever met in my life, which by the way, I fired all of them, would never let you do, which is he brought the guy up on stage to tell his story about how his son got killed. And the guy with tears in his eyes tells the story about how no politicians listened to his story, but Donald Trump came to LA and met with all of these families, and then put this guy on the airplane with them and brought him to Freedom Fest and then to Phoenix and went on. I mean, who in their right mind as a speaker ever does that? Because here's the rule, Gene. You never surrender the microphone to an amateur. You have no idea where it's going to go.
Yeah, that's true.
And he did that. And then
you have Rosa Parks stand up a little bit, but you don't let her say anything. That's what Clinton did, for example. But you're right. You don't let her take the mic. Yeah.
Doing call outs from the audience to have people stand up and nod and give you the thumbs up, give you the hoorah. So
you're right. You're right. Yeah.
So anyway, I saw that, and since I gamble, now only in business, but since I gambled, I started betting people that not only would, even though I was still for Rand Paul, even though I was working for trying to get him elected, but I bet that he would win the nomination and win the presidency. And I got 5 people to bet me $100. and everybody else who was convinced that Hillary was going to win wouldn't really bet real money. They're like, well, I'll bet you $10. I said, listen, I mean, I won't even spit on you for $10.
100 bucks is real money to a guy like you. That's good. Yeah.
Because not really. I mean, I would have bet him $1,000 a piece, but I couldn't get him. I mean, that to me, that's the minimum that you got to get serious,
Sure.
I mean,
of course.
So again, for my Vegas days, even in the 70s, I mean, guy says, I'll bet you $10, you slap him, you just don't waste any time with the guy. It was a bet. Anyway.
Yeah.
So when you asked the question, was I a little disappointed in Rand Paul? Absolutely, because we reached out and said, look, you got to amp up your game, man. You got a bad moon rising coming here. And that bad moon rising is going to be Donald Trump. No response. I
actually don't follow these things that closely. I'm an economist, and sort of like politics isn't my game, and I sort of get it secondhand. But what was it in one of the early debates? Rand Paul, didn't he actually attack Donald Trump for refusing to say that he would support any Republican nominee? Remember, Rand Paul said,
"Oh
something,
yeah, sure."
And so that was, so we libertarians said, "What the hell is he sounding like?" And that he's going to go after Donald Trump for that, for being for not saying he'd support any Republican nominee. So what a betrayal is the way many of us libertarians felt when Rand Paul said that. But go ahead, yeah.
Well, but it was just a poor move. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to win, if you're going to win at negotiating, if you're going to win a debate, the last thing you want to do is you think you've got this guy cornered, so you build this straw man, and of course trying to attack a New Yorker with that. I mean, if you try to attack somebody from, I don't know, somewhere else in the world, in the U.S., they'll probably take offense by that. But to have a guy who's now got to back down, and Donald Trump wasn't going to back down. I mean, we had already seen it with Barack Obama. I mean, Barack Obama did an amazing job with the birth certificate of keeping lunatics and non-lunatics worried about his birth certificate. And I said, guys, it's all just a giant distraction. Who worries about that? Okay, put it behind you. Oh, well, once we prove it, he's knocked out, and Sergeant of Arms is going to come. I'm like, you guys are like, just put the crack pipe down, because that's never going to work, because it's a straw man. It is a great negotiating tactic, and it worked exceedingly well for him. Well, it's the same thing. I mean, Trump would not acquiesce to the crowd, if you will, to that mob of people who were all nodding their head in agreement. And he won lots of counter people to him, because they said, look, he's standing up to these other politicians. I mean, whether he believed it or not, it doesn't matter. But it was a great tactical ploy. And if you can say a lot of things about Donald, but he ain't a bad negotiator.
Absolutely, yes. And you can say some critical things about Rand Paul as well, but compared to what? Absolutely, yeah.
So anyway, so Gene, you asked the question, and,
yes.
and I don't know if you even wanted to go that depth, but by the way, the Lower East Side, when my parents were there in the 1920s and 30s and 40s, is that yes, there were lots of Jewish people, and there were Italians, and there were Poles,
I live there now, by the way. I live
Germans.
I live on the Lower East Side with my artist wife, basically the Lower East Side. But go ahead, yeah.
Well, I'll have to send you the last address that my grandmother lived on.
You know it offhand?
I do not. But my grand.
Your grandparents came here. That's the origin story. They migrated here.
Yes.
Well,
from Poland. I mean, at the time, it was the Polish-Ukrainian border, and
when do they migrate? Approximately.
It was probably in about 1925, somewhere in there.
All right. Yeah. I go back to 1910 when my grandparents came, so a bit earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. My grandmother came here before she was married.
Yeah.
And saw New York. Then she went back. She ends up getting married to my grandfather, and ends up having. First off, he's sadly he was an alcoholic. He was an abusive guy. And she has 4 boys, and she looks at him and says, all right, we're packing up and we're leaving Lvov, which was, I mean, after World War II, or after, actually from 1939 on, it was no longer on the Polish-Ukrainian border. Stalin basically annexed a big chunk of Poland, which never went back. And, but she had moved here in the 20s.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So yeah.
My father might have met yours. They might have had a little kerfuffle. You never know what happened, but anyway.
or went to a deli. By the way, my father used to make money, because what he would do is of course for Orthodox, he would come and he would light the pilot light.
He was a Shabbos goy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We now use automated. Jews now use automated Shabbos goys, so that job got automated out of existence. Probably
look at that. I mean, and there should be reparations for that, Gene. Should there?
Absolutely. Although Shabbos goys driven out of business should have gotten a little bit of aid and encouraged to go on to do something else with themselves. But anyway, but we should be talking about FreedomFest, I guess. Isn't it the main point of our discussion?
Well, again, we go where we need to go, and we'll get there. So you're going to be at FreedomFest, and you actually have a purpose, because you are running a big debate, and talk about the organization that you have and the debates that you do, and that, because I find that fascinating.
I run a debate society called the Soho Forum. We launched in the fall of 2016, and we're very popular in New York City for many years, since 2016. Monthly debates, one-on-one debates, Oxford-style voting, and after a few months, we found we were so popular that we started to charge for tickets, and we make a fair amount of revenue from that, although mainly it comes from philanthropic donations, especially from the Don Smith Society, and John Mackey gives us some money as well. I take no salary from it because it's a labor of love, although I do get an office paid for. We've had over 50 debates that are available on YouTube and at the Soho Forum Debates podcast. I myself have done 7 debates, and one that I did on socialism with a Professor Richard Wolff has had more than 2.5 million YouTube views, to my surprise. We've had several other debates that have gone nearly 1 million on Bitcoin, and several that have had a few 100,000 on racial issues as well. I like one-on-one debates, always one person against one person. I don't like 2 against 2. I think it's too committee ridden. It sounds like panels. And the one-on-one, I think, is more dramatic. And I think that's partly why it attracts an audience. And then we do have Oxford style voting, which is before and after voting. You vote yes, no, or undecided on the resolution before the debate begins, and then vote again after the debate ends. And then so that we get to sort of declare a winner. And most of the time I agree with the voting in terms of who won. So we're bringing, we were driven out of New York City last year by the lockdown. But we did a lot of debates via Zoom. I started to develop a little bit of Zoom fatigue. And so we took it on the road. We went down to Florida. We did 2 debates down there. And one of them I participated in. And then we went up to PorkFest, New Hampshire event, where we did 2 debates up there as well. And now we're doing a sort of a mini debate at FreedomFest in South Dakota. This will be between John Mackey and Yaron Brook. John Mackey of Whole Foods, Yaron Brook of the Rand Society, on the purpose of corporations, a sort of clash of values between John Mackey and Yaron Brook. That will be a debate at FreedomFest, which I will be moderating.
Spell the name of the organization, because
the Soho Forum, the THE Soho. We originated in Soho, that's south of Houston. You know your Manhattan geography, and although we mostly hold the debates now north of Houston, but our first debate was held south of Houston, so we call ourselves the Soho Forum, a geographical address. And thesohoforum.org is where you can hook into us. We're going to have 2 debates already scheduled back to a physical space. One of them is going to be in September on the voting laws. The other in October is going to be on foreign policy. That one especially is selling out. We've rented a theater with nearly 800 seats for that one. The Symphony Space on 95th and Broadway, Upper West Side, with nearly 800 seats, and that's going to be between Bill Kristol, who's a well-known neoconservative on foreign policy, and Scott Horton, who's a well-known libertarian on foreign policy. So that clash, which was supposed to occur last year, which we had to postpone, will finally take place in October. But in September, that's going to be our inaugural event. We're going to have a party, and that gets to the twofold mission of the Soul Forum, which is not just to have debates, exciting debates of interest to libertarians, but also to have a social occasion, a network, a party afterwards, so we can meet and greet and commune with each other. That's the second purpose of the Soul Forum, and that purpose, of course, was honored in the breach when we had to do Zoom debates. So we're going to have a special occasion on September 8th when we finally get back to New York City. We're going to have a special party and a special opportunity for people to drink beer, drink wine, and commune together at the Soul Forum, which of course gets us into what FreedomFest is all about: community, people getting together of like minds and having a great time.
And how many Freedom Fests have you been to?
Yeah, it's maybe about 6 or 7. I think it's about in that neighborhood, and I always enjoy it. I always enjoyed Las Vegas, and even though I'm not a gambler like you, John, I'm not one of those people who wants to gamble the family money at the crap tables. But I don't do that. But I did like the entertainment. I liked the gaudiness of Freedom Fest, of Las Vegas rather. I liked Penn and Teller. I liked to go to a couple of events. I went to what's that Montreal group that does the I forget them. But anyway, Las Vegas is a great entertainment town. But of course, it'll be an interesting change of pace to go to South Dakota. I always bring my wife Asako, who's a Japanese artist and a sort of fellow traveler with libertarians. She loves to travel, and she's looking forward especially to the Mount Rushmore area in South Dakota for this particular Freedom Fest.
Well, that's excellent. And I just have to clear up one misconception for you. When you're a professional gambler, you really don't want to ever play in a casino or against a casino, is you're looking for people who want to bet. And Las Vegas is a perfect place to find people who want to bet, and they will bet on anything. So it's just, here's your simple rule for everybody who's listening, is that I don't like to make bets. I like to take bets, because it always works out better, because that's the way that you want to do that.
I'm not clear, John. I gather that I know a couple of people who play poker in Las Vegas, and they are, I guess, the house takes 10%, but you're basically playing against the other players, and you can, if you're a really good poker player, you can make a living doing that. But in the other games, you're basically betting against the house, aren't you?
Well, my arc of education, if you will, is that I played blackjack for a year, which is one of the hardest jobs I ever had in my life. It's a terrible job. And if you could keep track of everything and do multiple counts, especially when I was doing it in the 70s, you could get a mathematical advantage and win. But that was a tough gig. And then I went in, I played poker. But
you are playing against the house, but if you count cards, you can win. At least that used to be the case. I gather that they made.
And in fact, at that point in time, there were a lot of skeptics who were running casinos who didn't think people could possibly do those types of things. I mean, they just thought it was impossible. And then I played poker for 3 years, but during that time, what I actually did was you develop where you start doing proposition bets, which is what business is, a proposition bet, which is why business has been very good to me. And it's a lot easier to bet. It's a lot easier to play poker in a business world when they don't realize there are no cards and they don't know they're playing, because they don't quite understand it. But it's the same dynamic going into a conference room where you're negotiating a multi-million-dollar contract versus trying to beat people who are actually pretty good at playing poker and sometimes exceptionally good at playing poker. It's a lot easier to do that. But actually, proposition bets are what I do if I ever go to Vegas, and you will meet people. I can meet people anywhere who will bet on anything.
But you don't play. I guess, I don't know, the distinction I've drawn, I guess, is not relevant. You don't play roulette. You don't do the roulette wheel, right? Because
No,
that's again, no.
no.
So you play
I go.
card, you do card games is what you basically
I don't play card games anymore. No, what I do is
I mean,
I
you
go.
did, you used to do card
Oh
games.
yeah,
That's
yeah. I played blackjack. I played poker. Yeah, but again, I do proposition bets. So proposition bets, far better and all of that. So
I see. But otherwise, the more prosaic description of the business you're in, John, is what? What's your business?
oh, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I own a consulting business. I do marketing, advertising, and sales consulting. I do business turnarounds, and doing business. And playing professionally for 4 years was a great training ground for helping people turn around businesses. Because when you show up, the business is in the dumpster and it's on fire, and there's all kinds of problems. And most people don't understand what to do in that kind of crisis situation.
I see. Fascinating. Well, John, you sound like quite a guy. And
thank you. All right, I'll take that on a nice early morning. So excellent.
Yeah.
But and the only reason why I want to make that distinction is that lots of times people hear me say that I like to go to Vegas. Well, you must go and play. I mean, I'll just give you an example. I was sitting, my wife plays slot machines, and those are absolutely losers. And I know that very, very well, because I actually have 2 patents on how to improve slot machines. So, but I literally go to the sports book and I start watching, all the games there, and then what I'll do is I'll start betting with people who I'm sitting next to and start winning money, because people are there and they want to bet. They're just there to bet. They want to bet.
I want to defend. A guy I know ran the game show network, and as he put it, of course, classically to me, and not at all to my surprise, people much prefer games of chance to games of skill. And and I don't want to knock people who enjoy, like your wife, who enjoy games of chance. It's entertaining, and it's fun, and I think it's nothing wrong with it at all. Yeah.
No,
you of course like to play games of skill, but yeah.
Yeah, no, and again, what a proposition bet is it is a way to make, get people engaged, and they get excited, and then you build it up, and away you go. So
yeah.
So I always carry, wherever I travel since those days, I always carry a deck of cards. I always carry some dice with me, just in case somebody wants, a game may break.
You play craps? What do you mean? I don't know. Isn't a crap game just a game of chance?
Well, yeah. Again, Gene, I'll have to, it'd be longer than our interview, but you got to understand part of what I was doing when I was in Vegas is we actually, the guy I ran with, we used to actually have private poker games. So my job was to find people who wanted to bet at a game that would not have the constraints of the casino.
Oh, so you undermined the casinos, and if they'd heard about you, they probably would have driven you out of town, but you were just too elusive to catch up with.
Well, and of course in those days, probably even today, is you always had to give a certain level of tax to those in charge. So we'll leave it at that. So
I see.
Yeah, but the beauty of a craps table is you can always pick out guys who have lots of money, who have a really big pair, and you can fill in what that big pair looks like, and have a huge ego, and and to sit there and say, well, I'm going to a private game, and a no limit cash game, and people would go, God, I want to go. Yeah, let me go. So
sounds exciting. But I guess it's not going to have South Dakota. There's no gambling to speak of. You're going to organize some craps and games and card games when you get to South Dakota, John. I may want to participate, although I only got $5 to bet. But what are your plans when you go to Freedom Fest?
So my plans to go to Freedom Fest is that we're going to be there with the entire team from It's a Paul World. We'll be doing interviews. We'll be meeting people. We'll love to meet you at Freedom Fest. I have my book, which is Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Position to Win. So my co-author and I will be there. And by the way, Gene's, this is why you have to donate to the Soho Forum.
Oh, yes.
Because Gene is so much, the lights keep getting turned off. I mean, it's just, I mean, he's got to like got to get some pedals under the thing to power the light.
I rent the Soho Forum rents an office for me, and it's one of those automatic turn off lights.
I understand. I understand.
I have to keep waving my arm to keep it on, and that's why you've got to donate to the Soho Forum, because I could afford a better office, and I don't take a salary. So anyway, yeah,
he can't barely keep the lights on, for God's
exactly.
sakes.
Exactly. That's why we need a little bit of money. And but then otherwise, I am looking forward to Dave Smith, who's a friend of mine, who's a great comic. They're going to have stuff on libertarian comedy. In addition, Tom Woods is going to have like a Tom Woods Day with Scott Horton, and I'm looking forward to that as well. And there are a whole lot of other events. It's a real smorgasbord of events to almost every taste. The real problem when you look at the menu of choices is that that you can't be in two places at the same time. There's so many different events at Freedom Fest to attend, and so that's part of the appeal as well of Freedom Fest. Yeah.
And I will tell everybody who's listening that one of the ways that we always solve that is you want to go buy all of the audio for the entire event, and you will get some great material. To me, Freedom Fest is one of the best bargains out there.
Yeah.
A lot of different people. You meet people like Gene, and his wife's going to be there, so we can, and the accessibility. That's the thing I like. I have been on stage multiple times in my life where the talent comes in from the green room, goes up onto the stage, does their thing, gets to the back, somebody's holding the elevator open, boom, they're gone. And Freedom Fest, not so much. People are actually out there mingling, talking, doing all of that, and I think that's a really big positive. So, and I just want to just make sure that everybody understands that Gene's website is the Soho Forum.
.org.
Yeah, I'm going to get there.
I'm sorry.
The SohoForum.org.
Yes.
If you cannot translate from New Yorker, it almost sounds like the Seoul, like Seoul, Korea, South Korea. No, it is not the Republic of South Korea. It is the SohoForum.org.
Which stands for South of Houston. And of course, there's a Soho in London, Soho south of Houston, Soho. And then also, if you want to just go directly to the Soho Forum Debates podcast, there you can see a whole menu, about 52, 53 debates, 7 of which I participated in. In fact, one time I actually debated Mark Skousen himself, who is the guy who runs Freedom Fest. And those are all free. So that's what we offer. And then, of course, what you point out, John, that you mingle, that's what the Soho Forum events are all about. We want our debaters to stick around so that they can mingle with the audience afterwards. And that's when we have our party. And that's part of what the Soho Forum is all about. And John, if you're in New York City on September 8th or on October 4th, you definitely want to come to one of our in-person events in New York City this coming fall.
Excellent. Now, for those of you who have not made the decision, and where time is running short.
Yes.
July 21st to 24th.
Yeah.
Coming up in just mere hours in Rapid City, South Dakota. Now, for all of you who want to know, because you may say, I don't know how I'm going to get to Rapid City, South Dakota. Where is that? How does that fit? I'm going to give you directions right now. Oh. And you don't even need Google. Okay, ready? I mean, Gene he's going to understand this implicitly.
Even so I will. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Even Gene is going to have it. He's going to nail it down. So here you go. Locate Interstate 90. Now, by the way, if you cannot locate Interstate 90, go find your 4th grade teacher. Get a refund, because you should be able to know where the interstate is. Find Interstate 90. Determine if you are east or west of Rapid City. Gene in New York City, just for all of you for your geography lesson, he is east. So what he needs to do is he needs to get onto Interstate 90 eventually and head west. And when you get to the wide spot in the road, 78,000 people just before Mount Rushmore, call this home, and that is Rapid City, South Dakota. And it's going to be, I think, a great event. Now, just so I don't leave anybody out, if you are west of Rapid City, head east until you get to the wide spot in the road, and you'll have passed the beautiful Mount Rushmore. And I have to tell everybody that, Gene, because I have heard so many excuses over the years about why they couldn't get there. I have clients who go, oh, I always wanted to go, but I didn't know how to get there. I mean, for heaven's sakes, it was in Las Vegas. I mean, I met a woman who had a direct flight from Paris to Vegas. I mean, of course, but there are fewer direct flights to Rapid City. So I give everybody driving directions just in case.
Yeah, my wife, who's used to be a Pan Am stewardess in the old days, because in those days, of course, you had to be beautiful to become a stewardess. She has booked us direct flights from Newark Airport to Rapid City, so that's going to be convenient for us.
Beautiful.
But your directions are vivid and very helpful. Yeah.
Just to make sure nobody has an excuse. Well, Gene, any last words before we wrap this up?
No, I guess not. I look forward to hanging out with you, John Paul Mendoza, at FreedomFest. You sound like quite an entertaining guy, and I hope we run into each other. I'm sure we will.
Oh, we absolutely will. All right. So to wrap this up, I just want to thank Gene Epstein of the SohoForum.org, SohoForum.org. Go check it out. The podcast, if you get to listen to all that material, Gene will. Now, if you go there, it's a little bit like going to a sub sandwich place. If you can prove that you've listened to at least 12 of them, Gene will deliver a personal debate for the 13th one, I think, but we're not quite sure. I'm just throwing that out there, maybe a bonus, but go check it out. I find Gene fascinating. I love the fact that he does this kind of debate forum. One of the terrible things that have happened and has happened in the society today is that we do not have people of differing views discussing things and truly debating each other. What we have is we have people talking past each other. We have people who are making cheap shots and cheap points, and they're not doing that. And I can tell that Gene will keep everybody in line, and it will be fascinating. So to come to Freedom Fest, to see that debate live, but more importantly, support Gene in his efforts to keep this alive, because we need more discourse, not less. Censorship is not freedom. And with that, Gene, thanks a lot for spending some time with us, and look forward to seeing you in South Dakota.
That was so well put, John. I can't add anything to it. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.